as I've mentioned multiple times here before, when you have a card and no coverage, that's not good. It doesn't get you the care that you need, and it doesn't do so within means that you can afford. So we're going to continue to figure out a way to make that work.
Does he still
Jen,
believe the bill is
Jen.
mean? Sean, can you answer whether the president still believes the question?
There's no camera on, Jim.
Well, maybe
Jen.
we should turn the cameras on,
Jen.
Sean. Why don't we
Jen.
turn the cameras on?
Jen.
Why don't we turn the cameras on?
I'm sorry that you have to do it. Jen, go ahead.
Why not turn the cameras on, Sean?
Jen.
They're in
Jen.
the room, the lights are
Was
on.
it not true that there were tensions and some strain between the U.S. negotiators, which were Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt, and the Palestinians? Is it not true that there were tensions and strain?
I'm not aware of any, no.
Okay, so none.
When I talked to them about the trip, it was very positive. I'm not aware of any. I know that there was one story. I believe that story's been updated that came out of there, but I know that that's been updated.
The president had said 2 weeks ago that he would have a press conference in 2 weeks on
Right.
ISIS.
As soon as I have an update on that, I'll let you know. Glenn.
Just two quick questions. First, back to the Russia thing, because I know you never tired talking about it. One of the things in the president's tweets that I've noticed is that he doesn't reference the conclusion that the intelligence agencies have made, that Russia intervened on his behalf, or perhaps to put a finer point on it, against Hillary Clinton. Does the president accept that aspect of what the intelligence agencies have said?
Honestly, I've never asked him that specific question. I'd be glad to follow up.
And the second thing is just to dig the hole a little bit deeper on his comments in January. Have you ever discussed with him, he has said this in debates, he's talked about 400-pound kids sitting on edges of beds. Can we cite anything, or if you can't provide it today, can you provide it in a subsequent briefing that gives us some sense that other countries may have been involved in this other than Russia?
I'll try. Yeah, I look to the extent that it's not classified. I can at least ask the intelligence community for an update on that. Kristen?
Thank you. When asked about what actions President Trump might take against Russia in retaliation for meddling in the election, you cited the cybersecurity executive order. Can you be more specific, though? Does he support, for example, the new bill for a fresh round of sanctions against Russia?
Well, the new bill that the Senate parliamentarian ruled didn't follow proper procedure. So, I mean, there is no new bill at this time. The House is looking at taking up legislation.
Does he support a new round of sanctions?
It depends on, I mean, let's see what the bill looks like. I'm not going to comment on a hypothetical.
Does he support some type of punitive action directed at
And you know,
Russia?
when it comes to how the president works, he doesn't telegraph what he's going to do on a lot of these things. He does a lot of quiet diplomacy. He enacts things, and so until we're ready to announce something, we're not going to telegraph it through here.
And can you clarify what he meant in his tweet? He accused former President Obama of colluding or obstructing. What evidence does he have?
I think, again, what I will just leave it at is that clearly they, according to this report, knew back in August if they were so concerned, why didn't they stop it?
Well,
What did they
report
do?
is very extensive and goes into all of those details, that they were blocked at a number of different measures, that they were concerned about looking like they were intervening in the election on behalf of Hillary Clinton. The President
Well, I mean,
Obama
it's
did
just,
talk
I
to
mean, they
President
seem to
Clinton.
throw.
So what evidence does he have that President Obama was colluding or obstructing?
Well, again, I think it comes back to this idea that if they've been very clear, they've been playing this card about blaming Trump and Russia, and yet at the same time, they were the ones who, according to this report, knew about it and didn't take any action. So the question is, were they, if they didn't take any action, does that make them complicit? I think that there is a lot of questions that have to get answered about who did know what and when.
Was there an element of hypocrisy here, Sean? Because this was President Trump on the campaign trail. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. How can he accuse President Obama of obstructing when he was egging Russia on?
He was joking at the time. We all know.
He was joking?
Like,
He said that as a candidate, and he was pressed during that press conference over and over again.
I understand. And I think the idea was that you had Hillary Clinton with a secret server that was very clear about what she had done to evade it. And I think that that's probably a bigger concern right now in terms of what they were doing and the lack of security that they had. Ronica.
Sean, thank you. Jeff Mason sent an account out of the meeting that he had with you to the members of the White House Correspondents Association about the future of the press briefings. Would you say that his account of that meeting was accurate?
I was not provided of that. I had the cover.
The meeting?
Huh?
Could you give us an account from your perspective of what happened in that meeting and what we
We've
read?
had two since then. We had another one since then. Jeff has stated the position of the board that he believes, and I've shared with him where we are in that we have been consistent since December and January when we addressed this issue with them specifically and publicly, and that we will continue to have a mix of opportunities to stay in touch with the media.
Have been a drastic shift, starting from maybe the week before the president took his first trip abroad, that now we see you on camera about once a week. Is that a new normal that we would
We'll
expect?
see. We'll continue to mix things
Why
up.
are the cameras off, Sean?
Try.
Why did you
Try.
turn them off? Can you just
Try.
give us an answer to that? Can you
Try.
tell us why you turned the cameras off? Why are they off, Sean?
It's a legitimate
It's a
question.
Try.
legitimate question.
Try.
You are a taxpayer-funded
Try.
spokesman for
Try.
the United States government.
Sean.
Can you at least give us an explanation as to why the
Okay, so
cameras
since
are
we-
off?
So we can get this out of the way, can we address the cameras issue? Do you think this will
Yeah,
be-
some days we'll have them, some days we won't. The president's going to speak today in the Rose Garden. I want the president's voice to carry the day. And I think, so look, this is nothing inconsistent with what we've said since day one.
Can I ask you about healthcare?
Yes.
Where does the responsibility lie in the success or failure of the Senate healthcare bill? Obviously, the president and this administration have been directly involved, and there's a chance that it may go to the Senate floor and not pass.
Well, obviously, the Senate, look, the president's made it clear he wants a bill with heart. He understands. He tweeted earlier that Obamacare's dying, and, if we don't take action, the Democrats own Obamacare. They're the ones who gave it to us. They're the ones who championed it, and they own that result. The president's been the one who's been trying to fix it, trying to give people accessible and affordable health care. But make no mistake about it that Obamacare is dying. And the reality, as I mentioned last week, is that when you look at the majority of House Democrats, they support a single-payer $32 trillion bill backed by Bernie Sanders. That's what the alternative is. It's not a question of Obamacare versus the American Health Care Act. It's a question between we need to accept that Obamacare is dead. We need to understand that the reality is that what the choice is between putting in a system that is affordable and accessible or a single-payer $32 trillion health care plan that the majority of House Democrats support.
The CBO score is released. Do you envision the president going back to the drawing board? There's a high number of people expected to be uninsured as a result of the Senate healthcare bill. What steps will the president take once he has those numbers?
I think we've addressed CBO scores in the past. We feel very confident that where the bill is, and he's going to continue to listen to senators who have ideas and about how to strengthen it. But it's going to follow the same plan as we have. Zeke.
Earlier in your response to the Russian question, you used the conditional if this story is true. I was hoping you could provide some clarity on whether or not the president believes this is an accurate statement. Has he been briefed on that? On what President Obama knew, and also given that he was briefed a lot of that same timetable by the Intelligence Committee, and then separately on that, does the president have a response that needs retaliatory measures if he believes Russia was behind this?
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what part of the...
I'm asking, does the president believe that Russia was involved in an attempt to influence the 2016 election? And then if so, what is he going to do in response to Russia's doing that?
Well, I think I mentioned this to Kristen, and I'll say it again. He's answered this question since January, that he said Russia is probably involved in this. And then secondly, he's been taking steps
He hasn't said that
to...
since January, Sean.
He's taken steps to ensure that our cybersecurity network... I understand that. Well, I'm not going to get into specific details, but I will just say he's taken steps on both of those fronts and on the election
And
integrity.
just a separate question. Yesterday, in Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu reversed on a planned deal to create a third sort of gender-neutral prayer space at the Western Wall. A number of American Jewish groups are blasting the Israeli Prime Minister. Does the White House have any statement? Has there been any contact on this sensitive issue? And does the White House take any position on that issue?
I don't have anything for you on that right now. I would probably refer you to the State Department. Anita?
I have a couple questions about the Supreme Court decision. I don't really understand the practicality of it. I understand they're going to take it up in the fall. But one is, do you still need a 90-day review now, or has that 90 days has already passed? And secondly, in the fall when they take it up, I think the court also addressed, won't the point be moot by then? You'll have a number of months to implement this and have the review process, so what's the point?
Well, again, I'm going to let the Department of Justice fully analyze this, but obviously there are certain things that were enjoined when both the Fourth and the Ninth Circuits issued their opinions on this, and I think part of what the Department of Justice, among some of the other agencies that are involved, have to look at the
Do you know
full.
when they'll get back to us, like what timing, days?
It's the decision is hours old, so
Okay.
just
And then-
hopefully sooner rather than later.
Just a quick question about today. They'll be delivering statements in the Rose
Right.
Garden this afternoon. I'm just wondering why that ended up being statements and not the last couple times that the Prime Minister came. For whatever reason, President Obama and the Prime Minister did not have statements, nor did they have to take questions. Today you have statements, no questions. Whose decision was that? Did the Prime Minister not want questions?
I'm going to just say we obviously on each visit there are discussions at the diplomatic level back and forth about whether it's what will go into that visit, what issues will be discussed. All of those kind of things get worked out by the two teams, and I'll leave it at that. George.
Do you approve of the attacks on Senator Heller by allies of the president, and is there any danger of putting a Republican Senate seat at risk?
Oh, look, I think we're going to work with all of the senators to try to get their support on the American Health Care Act. It's something that, as I mentioned, the president has been reaching out to all of them who have concerns and issues, and we're going to continue to do that. Francesca?
Do you have a message to those who are attacking Heller?
I have not seen the ad that you're talking about, but I would just suggest that obviously we want to do what we can from a White House perspective to continue to reach out and work with them. Francesca.
Thanks, John. You mentioned that the president had been in touch with some of the senators who had concerns about this health care bill. I didn't hear you mention any Democrats, and Joe Manchin said yesterday that he had not been called by the president yet. Has the president reached out to any Democrats?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, and then a follow-up on that, going back to Joe Manchin, who you had brought up on Friday as somebody who you guys could potentially work with on this bill. He said in his interview that he would be willing to sit down with the White House if you guys were willing to call it a repair bill or a repair effort versus a repeal effort. Is that something that you would be willing to do, the president would be willing to do in order to get some Democrats on board in a working group?
Well, I think what we need to do is we're going to continue to have a team that will reach out. I'll check with our legislative affairs team and see what they've done. That being said, we've made it very clear for 7+ years that we're going to repeal and replace this. Goyle.
One question
Yeah.
on India-U.S. relations. This afternoon at the White House, world's most two powerful leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, of the world's largest and richest two democracies, will be meeting and greeting and have a number of discussions about U.S.-India relations. But Prime Minister Modi said that India will join U.S. to fight against terrorism. At the same time, yesterday, addressing the India-U.S. Indian American communities in Tyson Corner, he said that India had been suffering of terrorism for the last 30 years and telling the world that join us. Now time has come that entire world to join India to fight against terrorism. Before it was Taliban or Al-Qaeda and now ISIS. And what is you think going to happen after fighting against terrorism?
As you mentioned, I mean, they're going to have a long opportunity today to meet and then have dinner together. They'll talk about their ongoing cooperation, including areas like counterterrorism, our defense partnership in the region, global cooperation, etc. But I think that energy, there's a lot of things that they're going to have an opportunity to discuss, but that will definitely be one that they have plenty of time to discuss. And after they're done, we'll have a readout for you, and we'll make sure that you know what areas they covered, and hopefully what ground we've made up. Thank you, guys.